Good afternoon, dear viewers. Welcome back to my channel. This is my first vlog for 2020. Today is January 1, 2020. So, for the first vlog, my first vlog for 2020, I have chosen the topic of the blood provision of blood transfusion for the Jehovah's Witnesses. For those who are not Jehovah's Witnesses and do not know this, the Jehovah's Witnesses religion prohibits their member to transfuse blood to their member even if they are badly injured in an accident or they have a life-threatening health condition. For example, if they are suffering from severe or severe anemia due to some illness, and the doctor prescribed to the witness that they should accept blood transfusion in order for their life to be saved, or in order to save their lives. The Jehovah's Witnesses refuse blood transfusions, and the organization, the Watchtower Society, the legal arm or part of the religion of the Jehovah's Witnesses, has instituted hospital liaison committees that ensures that blood transfusion should not be administered to their dying members. So the nature of the task of the members of the hospital liaison committees is to coordinate with some doctors and their places or in the community that will agree to treat their members needing blood transfusion with non-blood alternatives. They say that the life of the patient can be saved by administering non-blood products. But the consequence of that kind of treatment is has a fatal consequences, because if the person needing blood cannot be transfused immediately if it is an emergency situation or case, the risk of dying because of lack of oxygen in the body is very high. So many witnesses has paid for their lives because of what they say as faithful adherence to what the Bible is saying about the sanctity of blood. Yes, the witnesses did not also eat viands or food products that has blood in it. So that is their contention. Blood is sacred in the scripture, so it cannot be used in any other way like blood transfusion. And I have chosen this topic because I have so many experiences about this practice peculiar practice of the Jehovah's Witnesses regarding blood transfusion in a life and death situations of their members. One of this is when I am just a newly baptized Jehovah's Witness back in 1987 or 88 in the province of Pampanga with my grandfather, maternal grandfather, when my maternal grandfather was needing an operation for his inflamed appendix. I was the one who was with him. So at my very early age of 17, I was to defend the faith of my grandfather, maternal grandfather. He is a long time circuit officer, but during that time he is the secretary of the body of elders and the Unmerciful congregation in Pampanga. But I was the only one who has accompanied him to the hospital there in San Fernando City in Pampanga, the Jose B. Lingad Hospital. So the doctor, before operating on him, inquired on me if we are willing to transfuse blood on him, on my grandfather, because they needed to do that for the operation. But I explained to them that since we are Jehovah's Witnesses and the patient is very much an active Jehovah's Witness, he will not allow it. He will not allow it to have transfusion on him. So the doctors, two of them, handed me a Bible from their locker and asked me to open up scriptures or to prove it to them that it is from the Bible. So as I remember, I opened up at Leviticus chapter 17 verses 10 to 14 and read from it the prohibition of God to the nation of Israel, the eating of blood. So after reading that, it is suffice for them to agree. So yeah, they say, because they are just doctor, they are not theology professors or pastors. Maybe they have no sufficient knowledge about what the consequences or how did I use the scripture and defending our viewpoints regarding blood transfusion. So they just consented on operating on my grandfather without using any blood transfusion at all. So that is it. So I feel father survived that operation and we feel vindicated because of that experience. Then another case which I have encountered with that doctrine is back in 1992 when my one of my sister, which is a newly baptized member of the Jehovah's Witnesses, back then in 1992, contracted the dengue fever. So she got worse, even though we take care of her. Me and my other brother take our turns in taking. So because of contracting the virus of dengue, my sister bleeds profusely for a day, and because of our vehement and continuous refusal to transfuse blood on her, in the evening, the consultants, the doctor consultants of the hospital, government hospital where we brought her, has talked to me privately and told me to bring my sister to a good hospital in Manila, or with doctors that can treat her, and ordered for her to survive that like threatening situations. And the elders contacted the hospitalization committees in Manila, and we brought her to St. Luke Medical Center in Quezon City, where one of the chairman of the hospitalization committees there is a doctor. And well, my sister survived that ordeal, but it has cost our family a very big amount of money just for her to survive that. And maybe it is God's will that she survive it, because by the time we arrive at St. Luke Hospital, Dr. Cruz, the assistant of Dr. Quizon, has told me that he's just giving without giving any medication besides the steroid for my sister to be able to endure the stress on her body. Dr. Cruz used steroids, applied steroid for her to endure so much stress in her body because of that illness. Dr. Cruz told me that he is giving 24 hours for my sister to survive, and that 24 hours is the crucial time, because by that time the virus will die in itself. That is the situation with a patient being ill with who has a disease caused by viruses, because the virus dies in itself, unlike bacteria. So maybe my sister is strong enough, and she survived that ordeal, and maybe it's God's will. But the very high cost of hospitalization in St. Luke, because it is a premier hospital here in the Philippines. My mother has at the end sold our house and to pay for the debts that she has incurred and the financial institution in Hong Kong, and the huge compounded interest with it. Our mother has no choice but to sold our house, our family house, to pay for her debts because of that hospitalization of my sister. Now come my wife, when she is just my fiancé back in 1993, at the third quarter of 1993, she got ill also because of dengue. Her companions, house companions, regular pioneers, attended the International Assembly here in Manila in 1993 and left her alone in the house. But when I brought my fiancé to the hospital, to the nearby hospital, the doctor diagnosed her of dengue. And so Dr. Elgin Colin, St. Jude Medical Center, also wants to use blood transfusion, but my wife, she's my, we're just fiancés back then. My wife refused blood transfusion. So the doctor, as per our advice, use only the plasma volume expander, which the medical directive of no blood transfusion is saying. So fortunately, my wife also survived that ordeal, and later in our life as in our life as husband and wife, she has developed a myoma in her uterus back in 2017, and she had this operation of total hysterectomy, and she almost lost her life because the doctors and the government hospital doesn't want to operate on her if they will not be allowed to transfuse blood on my wife. And my wife is so determined, because of being a Jehovah's Witness, not to accept blood transfusion. So the doctors keep on refusing us. They refuse to treat my wife, to operate on my wife, to have operations on my wife. So I sought the help of private health practitioners to operate on my wife, but I will have to pay their professional fees, which is a huge amount for poor Filipinos like me. I had to borrow money from my brother-in-law, which is not a Jehovah's Witness, because of that operation. All in all, I have to spend more or less 250,000 pesos. That is too much money for a poor Filipino like me. Here in the Philippines, it is too much money. Because if only the government doctors treat my wife without blood, I will the operation will not cost our family that huge amount of money. So even after now, I am still paying my debt from my brother-in-law. But the remaining balance is so small now. Thanks for God's help. So my wife also survived that operation. Well, you may say, your grandfather survived the operation, and your sister survived the operation too, and your wife, and 2 times those situations that has threatened her life has survived that operation too. Well, they survived it because in the case of my wife and my sister, professionals premier hospitals and professional doctors were involved in where it is they use techniques and procedures that ordinary doctors or government doctors and the poor community does not apply in this situation, but their only option is to transfuse blood. In the case of my grandfather, it is just a minor operation because it is an appendix in which, in that kind of operation, there is no need for, there is no really need for a blood transfusion because blood loss is so minimal. So that is the case. But what if, or what are my experiences, personal experiences about blood transfusion that the patients did not survive? One of the experiences here in our circuit or province is about a little girl about 9 to 10 years old, which is a cousin, first cousin of one of my nieces back in the northern part of Zambales, town of Masinloc, the town of Masinloc. The father of that little girl is the presiding overseer or the coordinator of their congregation. That girl, that particular girl, contracted also the virus of dengue, the hemorrhagic fever. And they brought her to the Ramon Magsaysay Ramon Magsaysay Memorial Hospital in Iba, Zambales. When the doctors asked them to transfuse blood on their daughter, they refused. The mother is the sister of my sister-in-law. They refused to have a blood transfusion on their child. And the girl knows it, that she is dying. So, in her dying hours, she pleaded to her parents, "Papa, Mama, I still don't want to die. Please don't let me to die. Don't let me die." But that pleadings from their daughter fall on deaf ears, because they want to stick to what the governing body, the Watchtower organization, has told them for so many years, that blood transfusion is a violation of God's law on the sanctity of blood. They just comforted themselves of the hope of the resurrection. So, they just watch their little girl die. That is so sad. Another incident about blood transfusion involves one of my friends in our congregation. She is a former regular pioneer when she was still single. She is Susilos. And that sister is a kind lady, and she is a very friendly sister in the congregation. In fact, when in my wedding, she is the one who took it upon herself and with one of our friends to decorate the Kingdom Hall for our weddings. I did not ask her to do that, but I was surprised when we arrived at the Kingdom Hall that the Kingdom Hall is well decorated for our wedding, because she took it upon herself and she is the one who bought the materials for the decorations. Now, when she was about to deliver her second child in the hospital, during that time, my youngest daughter was also confined at the same hospital. During that time, my youngest daughter was also confined at the hospital because of pneumonia. And her husband went up to our room and told us that the sister was being treated in the delivery room for the delivery of their second child. But too bad, that sister did not survive that delivery because of profuse bleeding, hemorrhoids. She lost a huge amount of blood, and so the sister died. It is because her family refused to accept blood transfusion, because the doctor there and the hospital is forcing them to have this transfusion because the placenta was positioned before the baby. So if the placenta is being fractured during the delivery, it will make the mother bleed profusely. So the sister died, and I was one of the pallbearer who carried her coffin on my back. I was one with the carrier of her coffin upward the hill, because our cemetery here in our city is located uphill. So when I arrived at my house and took off my shirt, I noticed that the corner of her coffin has lip marks on my shoulder, because the sister is somewhat heavy because of her large blood. So her daughters grew up without her, and her older sister took care of her kids, because as I heard, her husband married again. So those are cases. But I know it that around the world, since the prohibition of blood transfusion and the witnesses around the world until now, there are so many who has paid with their lives because for their determination to follow and obey the law of the governing body prohibiting blood transfusion. So, because of these situations, it is noteworthy, or it is, I should say, it is important for each and every one of us to ask the question if the practice of prohibiting blood transfusion on their dying witnesses is really from God. Is it inconsistent with what the hematology or the science regarding the chemistry of blood, is it compatible, or is it consistent with what the witnesses or the leadership of the witnesses is doing right now? Is there doctrine on not accepting blood transfusion in order, or is it in disarray? That some mechanism and their policies regarding blood transfusion is not consistent of what is doing, or what they are doing about that called blood. So it is. So let's examine it closely.